This is Big Tasty Sports. Best bets, week 9. We are coming in off a hot week in week 8. I felt like we were due for kind of a big week. I mean, pretty much every week has been positive overall, so there's not a lot to complain about there. But I know that these are some sharp guys who are making these picks. We talk about this a little bit on the stream today, but I mean, nah, it's not a stream. You know what I'm talking about. It's a little bit tough making picks Tuesday night and Wednesday morning just because you don't have the benefit of the opening line where you can get good value. You don't have injury reports and more information like you could have on Saturday and Sunday to maybe make more educated bets. So really this window where these picks are being made is sort of a tough window to make them in. I'm not whining about it. I'm just saying, like, if you're betting, take this information. You could wait on some of those injury reports. You could wait to see who out of all these teams that have made trades and stuff is gonna play. So the fact that last week on confidence level 3 picks went 6-2 up to 37-23 on the year, plus 3.9 units last week. Overall on the week, up 4.1 units. So the confidence level 2 picks, 3-2, confidence level 1, 0-1 again. Just full on fade those at this point, folks. Those things are terrible. 2-14 on the year. If we just hadn't included those, it would be a moneymaker. So definitely do not. I wouldn't play the confidence level 1 picks even if I make them at this point. Been pretty much shit. But the rest of them, man, things are going well. So like I said, 4.1 units up last week. This week we mostly have confidence level 3 and 2 picks. There may be 1 or 2 confidence level 1 picks in there. But overall, it's going strong. So please do take the information. I hope it's helpful. If you're watching the video, please just take a minute and hit that like button. I know I don't always hit the like button either. I'm not saying I do, but I also know it's not that hard. Just click it. I won't even tell you to smash it. I mean, come on. I'm not telling you to smash it. Just tap it. Tap it gently if you want. I don't care. And then also do subscribe. Got more and more info coming out. I actually had a conversation with D today about some NBA stuff. Hopefully Kevin's going to be jumping in with us on some of that as well. So as the NFL moves toward the end of the season, we'll be getting heavier into NBA and having some good content on that. So do hit that subscribe so you're not missing anything. If you're listening to the podcast, please also hit to download that, subscribe to the podcast, and rate and review as well. That's the spiel. You know how it goes. Let's get into some picks. Next up tonight, we have Yanni joining us fresh off a sweep in week 8 on the show. How's it going, Yanni?
It's going pretty well. Be going even better if I can back-to-back sweep, if that's a possibility.
That is a distinct possibility, I would say. And as we were just talking about, and you talked about this when we did the bets, you took the alt line on the Niners at +3 or -3, but you had talked about going up to 6.5 or 9.5, which I think in real life you did. But for the show, if anybody tailed that, they would have hit it too.
Yeah, I should have had bigger balls there and done 9.5 on your show here, but I did in real life, so I felt good about that.
Yes, it's good to do it in real life, and also it's good to sweep regardless, man.
Oh,
That's
absolutely.
always nice.
Yeah,
So
I needed to catch up. I was a little bit behind a few of you guys, so I had to try to make up a little ground.
yeah, it's funny how everything's tightening up now, but
Mhm.
good overall for the show,
Yep.
especially the highest confidence level picks, man. It's hitting at a pretty substantial rate. I was actually looking at that after last week. I was like, man, I got to start betting more money on the, like, I'm betting them, but I got to start putting more on it because these are hitting at a great clip. So
And
anyway,
especially when you see people aligned on certain sides or games or whatever, it's like obviously if we're all capping and seeing things similarly, there's a reason for that. And to your point, I mean, they're hitting at a good clip, so I'm with you. I'm with you on that.
totally. All right, man. Well, hey, let's jump in and try to put together another sweep for week 9.
Let's do it. So I guess I'm going to start here. Why don't we do it this way? I'm going to start with your team, the Minnesota Vikings. But I'm not taking a side in this game. I
Okay.
am going to take a total, and I'm also not taking a game total. I'm going to take your Minnesota Vikings team total over 23 and a half. Normal juice right now
Okay.
at all the books, it looks like. So, I'm looking, and obviously big acquisition, by the way, for your team today, getting TJ Hawkinson, right? I mean,
Yep.
that's a serious weapon to put inside of Jefferson and Thielen. I mean, that is legit. Now, obviously, he probably won't be a factor this week per se, or much of a factor this week. As the season goes on, he certainly probably will. But regardless, I mean, there's a couple things here. Washington's coming off probably their best defensive performance of the year, but they're playing Sam Ellinger and a struggling Colts offense. So I think you got to kind of take a little bit of that with a grain of salt there. And the other thing I look at here is they're talking Chase Young may play this weekend. I think
Yep.
there's
I
a
heard that too.
a slight possibility, which you think would help them, and maybe it will with their rotation. But if anything, it seems like when teams try to pitch count a guy back in, sometimes it takes a little while for the rotation to kind of get into place. So I actually don't think that is going to help them. What I do see is I see a Washington team that is very susceptible against the pass. And I see it, weather permitting. And again, anytime you're betting a game this early, you're always kind of rolling the dice a little bit with that. But weather permitting, I see another big Justin Jefferson game, a Thielen game, perhaps Cook and Madison out of the backfield, even type game. Even if they're not running the ball well, I still think they're going to move the ball well, and I still think they're going to score. To me, 23 and a half, if you can get pretty much anytime your Vikings are under 24, I mean, I'm going to consider playing them. I think this is a spot where they can definitely push 30 points there. I think they should push 30 points here. So I'll take them over 23 and a half. I like them here.
Yeah, I feel like they need to start doing that. Like we've talked about how, and I mean, this is doesn't relate to your play necessarily, but the defense is iffy. I hope that they can keep improving. But this is an offense that's talented enough that I think most weeks they should be putting up 27 to 30 points or more. And that's what's going to give them a chance to win on a regular basis. Let me ask you a question about kind of approaching this team total. So we don't know for sure how or if the line will move, obviously, but I was talking to Phil about something similar where we're talking on Tuesday night. Obviously, injury reports aren't out, weather isn't out. There's lots of things that can change between now and let's say Friday night or Saturday, even. Um, but let's also say that if some of those things come out and Minnesota's team total moves to say 24 and a half, like when you have a bet you like, but you know that some of these other factors could come into play, are you more likely to just pull the trigger or is it just kind of case by case basis?
For me, it's case by case because I do feel like situations like that they happen fairly regularly. And I will tell you, there have been plenty of times this season where I have backed out. Either I've had an option to cash out or potentially
Huh.
cut my losses and even play the other side if something doesn't seem to go. Now, obviously, the hope is, and you won't really get it with a team total like this, but the hope is if you can maybe even middle or play both sides and whatever at that point. Haven't been a lot of opportunities for that for me, at least this year. I've had a couple of small windows like that, but I'm looking case by case here. If something happens, if this total gets bet up and then we find out that, oh gosh, it's going to be really windy, it's going to be raining, it's going to be whatever there, absolutely. I would certainly look to kind of, I'm going to say hedge out of it, but take the other side if that happened. Sometimes I think
Yeah.
it's better to cut your losses.
That makes sense. I will say so this isn't a play that I had thought about yet. I think I bet Minnesota already. I think I might have gotten them at 3 before it moved. I'd have to double check. But I like this bet. The reason being what you talked about, that Washington just won a game against the Colts with Sam Ellinger. And the parts of that game that I watched, he also had receivers dropping passes. I mean, there were things that went Washington's way that were number one, it's a bad offense. And number two, they got some lucky breaks. So I think Minnesota, well, I'm still skeptical of how good they can be. Their offense, at least, is very talented. And so I'm with you unless weather pops up and is a big factor or something like that. Going over 24, I think happens 75% of the time plus, which makes -110 a great bet if that's the case.
Yeah, totally agree with everything you said there. And yeah, when you go back, and I was able to actually watch that Indianapolis and Washington game on replay there, you're right. I mean, Indianapolis should have won that football game for
Yep.
one. And they stalled in the red zone basically three times. A drop pass from Michael Pittman, things like that. And it's like you look at that and you say, "Gosh, man, Indy should have probably gotten to 24 points in that game, and should have won the game," and they didn't. But I think that's the difference right now between a team like the Colts and the Vikings. I think the Vikings will find a way. And the last thing I'll say, and I mentioned it when we were chatting Sunday night briefly, I don't usually put a lot of stock into these revenge games and that, but I think there is something there. And that Kirk Cousins wants to show out in this game. I mean, that he does. I know it's not his first time replaying Washington, but going into their building, he'd like to have a good game. So I feel
Yeah,
like he's going to be focused. And I don't buy that Washington secondary, even though Cam Curl's been playing well. I just think the Vikings are going to be able to throw the ball here. To me, 24 points seems, I don't want to say easy because it's not, but like you
right.
said, if it can hit 70% of the time and we're getting even juice with this, I'll take it all day long.
Totally. Totally. Love it. What's the confidence level for that one?
I mean, I'll go ahead and give you a 3 on it. I like it a lot.
Love it. Great. All right. What's pick number 2?
Pick number 2, I'm going to go back to the well. I've done it twice on this segment, and I'm going to do it a third time. I'm looking at the Philadelphia Eagles first half. Right now, you can get -7 at regular juice on multiple books, and that. First of all, this Philly team, I think, is on a mission right now, and they're on a roll. I know it's a little bit of a short week for them. I realize that, at some point, they're not going to come out of the gate smoking at some point. But against this Houston defense that just got thrashed by Malik Willis and the Titans, really Derrick Henry and the Titans. But I don't see how Philly doesn't come out swinging again here. To be honest with you, I like Philly at the -13.5 that's out there. Now that's getting to a little bit of testy waters when you do that. The back door's open. There's a lot of stuff that goes on there. But when we're talking about basically a one-score game in the first half, the way that Philly has played, particularly in quarter number 2, but really in first half of games, and then you look at that Houston defense and the offense, I mean, they can't really sustain drives. I don't think they're going to be able to sustain drives against Philly here. I like it. I mean, I think this is definitely one of those games that at halftime, Philly's winning 17-7, 20-6, I think it's one of those kind of games. So I'm going to go back to the well again. We talk about it, and until something proves otherwise, no reason to reinvent the wheel. It's worked, and I think it's going to keep working.
Man, I'm 100% with you. I mean, a couple things that I'll just say on this one. Another one that I haven't bet yet. Bush should probably go do that. I was looking at all the first half stuff today. I've been trying to do that every week. And Philly's just so strong, both season long and recent history. And Houston is not. Like Houston, well, I mean, Houston's not a good team, but they also haven't been good in the first half in particular, over the course of the season in many of their games. So this is another one where I know there's no way to quantify it for sure. But if you said these teams play 10 halves, how often does Philadelphia, especially first halves where it's not a blowout already, how often does Philadelphia go up by at least 7? I mean, 8 out, like, it's hard to see it not happening most of, like, there's fluky stuff. I know, pick six, whatever stuff happens, but aside from that, man, I think Philly dominates the Texans most of the time.
No question, man. It's like you said. I mean, if they play this game 10 times, I feel like at least 8 of those times they're going to be winning by more than 7.5. So
Yep.
I like those odds. And until someone puts evidence out there that they can go, especially in the first half, toe to toe with Philly, which at this point nobody's really proven they can do it, on their schedule. I just don't think Houston's that team. So until someone proves it, and chances are, if someone proves it, it's going to be a Dallas or one of the better teams. I don't think it's going to be a Houston team. I understand that this is kind of a Houston Super Bowl because they're at home in prime time. They don't get that, but I just think the mismatch is too much, and I actually think the prime time keeps the Eagles focused. Right? If this is a Sunday 1 p.m. game, maybe Philly comes out a little slow. They're not fully into the game, but it's prime time. I mean, they're going to want to show out on prime time.
Yep. And I think you may have said this on Sunday, but even I don't know if a team plays for this, but even the potential of, hey, let's put them away in 3 quarters and we could even rest some starters. Yeah, I mean, I think that's on the table in a game like this.
Oh,
So,
100%. 100%.
yep. You going 3 on that one also?
3 for sure on that one. Yep.
Love it. All right. Time to hit another plus money pick, Yanni.
I hope so. So I had 2 thoughts here originally. Actually, I take that back. I had about 5 or 6 thoughts, but
I'm sure.
I
I'm
narrowed
sure.
it down to I narrowed it down to 2 here that I like the best. And I'll tell you, I mentioned this 2 weeks ago, didn't do it. I'm going to mention it again and not do it. My initial thought was to take Seattle as a road dog and division game. I think that to me, that's a coin flip game. I think they have a legitimate shot to win. You can get plus 110, plus 115. But I'm going to pump the brakes on that because I feel like this Cardinals team, and we talked about it with the Vikings game, even though they didn't cover that spread, they played fairly well. And I think that they're just an entirely different team with DeAndre Hopkins on offense. And their defense has played, solid. I know they gave up some plays against your Vikings, but overall, they didn't play horribly in that game. So,
Right.
anyways, that's a long-winded way of saying I'm not taking Seattle, even though that was my first reaction looking at the spreads. I think what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to go back to the well with Philly, and I'm going to take an alt spread on the game minus 16 and a half. You can get that at plus 120 right now. So, to me, I think, again, if they're going to blow this team out, which I think is a very real possibility, 17 points seems like a good number to me. It's 16 and a half at that plus money. It's kind of crazy, but as we've talked about how there really seems to be these top heavy teams, right? The Eagles, the Bills, the Chiefs, and there's kind of a little bit of a pack beyond that. Well, past that pack is a team like the Texans, and they're
That's right.
they're below that pack. So you're really looking at the elite of the elite playing against a team that's probably going to have the number 1 pick in the draft, or very likely may have a number 1 or 2 pick in the draft here. I like it. Again, I don't see how Houston can hang with this team on either side of the ball. Sometimes with these high spreads, you're like, maybe their offense can put up some points, a team like the Lions. Or, you say, maybe a team that maybe their defense can hang in there or whatever. I don't see it on either side here with Houston. I don't think their offense is going to be able to score. I don't think their defense is going to be able to keep up. So I'm going to kind of double dip like I did with San Francisco last week. I'm going to lay 16 and a half at the plus 120.
Yeah, agreed. It's interesting because Houston's a team that I keep wanting to think is okay, and they keep proving to me that that's not the case. For some reason, I keep thinking, well, maybe Davis Mills is a kind of serviceable NFL quarterback. I like Dameon Pierce. The defense, it's like maybe they're kind of okay. And then just every week they go out and prove they're not. Plus, Lovie Smith, I'm not sure that he's a great NFL coach. So, yeah, I agree with you. Top of the league, bottom of the league. That's this matchup. So.
Yeah, and you're right. I mean, this Houston team, I will give them credit. They seem to play hard. They seem to try to be competitive. So it's not like they're just a crappy team that's going through the motions. I mean, they seem to be putting effort forth. I just think they're undermanned. I mean, you mentioned they've got a couple guys. Dameon Pierce is a bright spot for them as a rookie. We know Cooks has ability, even though he's kind of this season hasn't done a lot. Davis Mills has shown flashes of being a good quarterback every now and then. You'd be like, wow, that was a nice throw. He's leading a nice drive. But and then their defense, I mean, their defense on occasion has looked fairly well, but you start looking down that roster and you start looking at these guys and you start watching the film and you're like, they don't have a lot there. So again, to me, maybe they come out hyped and maybe whatever, but I think that it'll be a quick smack to me. I think Philly kind of punches them in the mouth pretty quickly here, hence that first half cover. And then I think they basically just put them to sleep. Like you said, it could be a third quarter situation where they're up by 28, 30 points and they're taking guys out in the fourth quarter.
Totally.
Yeah.
What do you want to do for confidence on that one?
With that one, just with such a large number, I mean, I'll just give it an average confidence. I'll put a 2 with it there just because I mean, we're talking about the NFL and we're talking about laying 16 and a half points. So I don't care who's playing who. That's a lot. So I can't give it a full confidence there. But I mean, as a plus money bet, based on what I've kind of looked over early in the week, I like it.
Yep. 2 for plus money is fairly confident. We know from how the bets have gone on this show this year, if you give it a 1, it's a death sentence. Right, so you don't want to do that if you like it at all.
Right. I mean, honestly, I will be very, very surprised if that game is competitive. I really will. I mean, sometimes you're like, I thought this team was going to dominate and they didn't. I mean, I go back to that Patriots and Bears game where I thought New England was going to dominate, but again, I think at that point, and it's easy to say in hindsight, we're looking at two of more of that bunch teams, a little less on the spectrum, right? I mean, New England's a little closer to the middle, Chicago's a little closer to the
That's
middle.
right.
Whereas again, Houston and Philly, there's such a drastic difference there right now.
Yeah, and we could talk about this forever, but last thing I'll say about that is Chicago too. I think there's more volatility. Like Justin Fields may suck, but he also could pull some stuff out of his ass on a given day. Where
Absolutely.
Davis Mills isn't really going to do that. The
No.
Texans are just blah. There's not a high upside that's even on the table really for most of their players. So I think
Right.
there's even less chance of them doing something spectacular than a team like Chicago.
I think you nailed it there. They don't have that. I'm going to call it, well, you called it volatility, which is perfect, but I don't think they have that because, like you said, I mean, you know what you're getting with Davis Mills, you know what you're getting with this team. They're going to give a good effort, but at the end of the day, a bunch of guys that realistically should probably be special teams players are starting
That's
on both
right.
sides of the football for them, and
It's a good way
that's
to
to
put
me
it.
what it comes down to. So.
Good way to put it. Awesome. Well, I imagine anyone who watches or listens to this show already knows, but go follow the Bet Crushers on it's at I always get confused between the website and the Twitter handle. It's at the Bet Crushers or just betcrushers.com. Yanni's putting out a ton of great stuff, DFS props, straight up bets, all of that every week. I have started playing a few DFS lineups, thanks to Yanni, following the guide to a large extent. So go check that out if you haven't, and we'll look for another sweep and reconvene next week.
Sounds good, man. Good luck this weekend. I appreciate it.
All right, thanks, man. We can lead with that. I got Phil Nason's back online after a week or so of not being able to line up our schedules. He is back with the Michigan sweatshirt on the stream. How's it going, Phil?
It's going great, man. I was really thrilled to see that Michigan defeated Michigan State last week. They covered the 100 points when I was on the show last, and we're good to go. National championship, kids.
Here it comes, and then they got assaulted by Michigan State in the tunnel.
Yeah, you know what? That's an interesting story. That tunnel. I was watching the game with a guy who played on the national championship team in the '70s, and those things happen all the time. You know what? The bottom line is if you have self control, you do what you do. Now that young fella probably shouldn't have skipped to my loo, as I guess somebody on Twitter said, and gone into the tunnel. But the thing is he does that every week because his father's a truck driver, drives all the way up from Texas to watch his son
Ah,
play, and then has to turn around and go back. So he runs in there to see his father, and
got it.
usually that doesn't happen. I mean, usually they don't have fights, but Michigan State,
Right.
that's the difference. That's the difference between a state school and a private school.
Yeah. Well, it's unfortunate that it happened, but we're here to jump into some NFL.
Yeah.
It's I do try to always say now when we're recording this, just so people know, Phil and I are talking on Tuesday evening. So as we were talking about before the stream, it's important for people to understand that injury reports are not out yet. Lines could potentially move. So you got to take what we talk about here and think about it for yourself as well. But just trying to get some info out there early in the week. So it's a Tuesday evening when we're talking.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's jump into it, man.
Okay.
Where do you want to go first this week?
Well, I'm gonna save my underdog for last. Boy, these money line dogs are hard to pick these days. Um, I'm gonna take the Dolphins. It was -5, but I think it's -3.5 now. Either way, take the Dolphins to cover whatever they do. The Bears are a disaster. Um, I don't even know what to say. I know they picked up Chase Claypool, but Miami did a couple good things too. They picked up Jeff Wilson, and they also got the Chubb kid from Denver, correct?
Yep, that's
So
right.
that's going to help them a bit, but it won't matter against Chicago because Chicago has a hard time moving the football. Let's face it, they get stopped a lot. Justin Fields is very erratic. This is what happens when you have the best receivers in the world your whole life, and then you go up against teams that have the same thing. So you have the cream usually rises to the top. I'm not saying that he won't, but this is a good case to stay in college for 4 years and learn how to play football, you know. Um, but at the end of the day, Tua is probably one hit away from a wheelchair, and that's up to him. But
Yeah,
he looked good last week.
he did. He did. And in
So
this
we're
game,
gonna take the Dolphins to cover this whatever spread that is, as long as it's under 5 points.
all right, I do have it at 5 right now. What I may do too, because I generally record the intro to this podcast on Wednesday morning. So if it has come down by tomorrow morning, I'll make a note of that. But up to 5, and it's at 5 on PointsBet. It's minus 107 right now, so you can get a little bit less juice if you can bet it there.
Right.
So
That's what I think. That's what I did when I logged it at BetStamp. I accidentally logged 4.5 and 3.5. So it looks like I'm going to take a L for that too. But you know what? I don't care. So it doesn't matter. I have a job in the industry that's really good, and I don't worry about these things anymore. I don't sell picks. So anyway, my
absolutely.
next pick is the Vikings to
Oh, let's
cover
do
over
it.
Washington. You know what? They're 5 wins in a row.
Yep.
You have to really pay attention to the NFL to see that, because they don't talk about the Vikings. But the Vikings have won 5 straight, and they've looked pretty good doing it. Now, I know they don't cover much on the road, but Washington's not going to cover anything anymore. That team's finished. That team's going to be finished for the rest of their careers. And the reason they're going to be finished is because they're very unstable ownership. They have no clue what they're doing there. They haven't for a very long time, maybe since the days of John Riggins. But I just think that Minnesota's just better. And who even goes to a Washington Commanders game? What is a commander anyway? I mean,
It's someone who's in charge, I guess.
well, that ain't them. So
Yeah.
I think it's going to be the Vikings to cover their business. They've looked really good. Kirk Cousins, he's maligned. I know my friend Michael hates him, but you know what? And he's a Vikings fan. He just doesn't like him. Fran Tarkenton ain't going to show up anytime soon, so that's the best you got. And I think
Well,
it's going to be good enough to cover against the Washington Commanders.
I like it, and they picked up T.J. Hawkinson today as well.
That's
Irv
right,
Smith
they
being
did. You
hurt.
know what, the Lions? I don't know what you're doing over there. You need to get rid of that coach. That's all hype and crap. You need to get rid of half that team. You need to sell it back to the Fords if they don't own it still, and just give up. Just give up. You
It's been
traded the
rough
best
for them.
player. They traded their best player for a bag of peanuts.
Hey, they gave him to Minnesota, so I'll take it.
Okay, well that's fair enough. I have a soft spot in the heart there for the Vikings, as you know. So good for them. But my last pick, I'm going to take Seattle to beat Arizona, straight up.
Yep, love it.
Somehow Seattle has the 4th best offense in football. How did that happen? I don't know. I thought one of the things that in the post-game presser last week after their win, they said that it's a lot easier to get things done when no one is taking credit for it. And I think that was a good shot for a lot of reasons. I think Seattle, first of all, they have one of the best coaches in football still. You like to talk about these old guys, people do anyway. He doesn't have it anymore. Who says he doesn't have it? He's taken a team nobody thought would win 4 games, and look, he's in first place in the NFC West, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
And you know what? Even if they lose the rest of their games, 2 things I'm very happy about. Geno Smith won. He's come back. That kid could have quit anytime he wanted. He got maligned in New York. Look at that. He had 2 coaches there, a bunch of bums playing on that team, guys who no one ever heard of and no one ever will hear of unless you're listening to a police scanner. But Seattle is just much better. And the thing is the Cardinals have terrible defense. Terrible defense. And this Kyler Murray, maybe he should have stuck with baseball. He had a pretty good first year, but what is he doing now? He throws the ball all over the place. He makes bad reads, bad decisions. I don't understand what he's doing there. I think the coach is probably going to get fired if they lose to Seattle this week, and that probably would be unfair. But when the Cardinals have lost 3 of their last 4, they don't look good. They don't look like a good football team. They look like the Lions look without the quarterback because Goff is playing better than that guy. So I'm going to take Seattle on the money line. Give you a bunch of sound bites, kids.
I love that pick, man. I just think Seattle continues to be undervalued. And even by me, I thought they were going to be bad. So I'm the first one to line up and say I was wrong. But Gino's he's dropping dimes. I mean, I think he's still at 70% or something completion percentage. He's just playing phenomenal. And the defense is coming along a little bit. I mean, this is a team that's just getting better every week, too. So I haven't always been the biggest Pete Carroll fan, but I think you got to give him a lot of credit for the way this team has come together and how they're performing. So,
well, you know
that
what?
pick.
When you have kids like DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett on your football team, you're going to make plays. You know, Geno Smith has never had anything like that before.
Yeah.
And Russell Wilson, I'm sure Russell Wilson is sitting on his perch, you know, waiting for someone to buff his toenails. And
he's doing high knees.
What's that?
He's doing high knees. That's
whatever
that's
doing,
how he inspires people. So
he's wishing that he was still in Seattle. But I don't think Seattle would do anything differently with him.
No, that was a phenomenal trade for Seattle. Absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah, you know what? These old guys are smart. You know, when Bill Belichick traded away Jimmy Garoppolo, do you remember that? The uproar over that?
Oh, yeah.
How many players has Bill Belichick traded away that ended up doing anything after they left?
Probably not many.
These guys are good judges of talent. You know, you can poo-poo them because of their age. You can poo-poo them because they've had a couple of tough seasons, or maybe they don't want to change. But you know what ain't missed? They ain't missing the sound of the hits and what their eyes see. And those eyes and ears have seen more than most of us will ever see on a football field. So we always give the old guys credit.
Yep.
And love Detroit, fire Dan Campbell. He's a joke.
Let's do it. Well, hey, appreciate the picks. The last thing is, you know, we got the confidence ratings. I know you're always confident. So are you going level 3 confidence for all these, 2 or 1 for any of them? How are you feeling this week?
I feel confident about everything I do.
I know you do.
You know, people say, do you put a value on your plays? No, I play them all.
Yep. All just plays you'd play.
I'm not going to tell anybody how to play it, what to spend on how do you spend their money.
100%.
I don't like it when people try to spend mine. Bottom line, you can play all 3. You know what? I'm 3-0 in my Michigan gear. Ask my boy MMA. He knows what's up. And I got to tell you, we'll be 3-0 this week, I think.
I like it. Feel it coming. Hey, everybody, go follow at Cash with Flash on Twitter if you are not already doing it. Phil is putting out an ungodly amount of content right now on a lot of different games, baseball, basketball, football. He's been doing it a long time and is really good. So make sure you go follow him so that you can get all the plays. Anything else you'd add, Phil?
Oh, no, that's it. That's all. I appreciate the kind words.
I mean,
really do. Good luck, everybody. It's nice seeing you, and we'll see you next week.
Fresh off a Phillies win last night. It's Wednesday morning, and I got D Nice in the house. Are you feeling okay this morning after that big win last night for the Phillies?
Feeling good. Stayed home, had 0 alcohol drinks, just some water. You know, you have to pace yourself. It's like I've been at a couple games. You have plenty of cervezas at those. There have been plenty of week night games that I've stayed home and said, okay, save it for later in the playoffs. If they keep this thing going, you don't want to have to go to rehab at the end of October. Now November because of the rainouts and the strike that pushed the season back. But Bryce Harper is Mr. November now. Fun time here in Philly. You got the Eagles still 7-0 and looking like they should win another one. And they're playing at the same time against the same city on Thursday night as Game 5 of the World Series. So fun time here in City of Brotherly Love.
Pretty awesome stuff. You ride it out now so that, you know, when we get to where all we have is NBA and NHL, you don't feel too bad about yourself. I mean, if you get a couple titles, nobody's going to feel sorry for you for anything after that. So,
yeah, like if they can give me one title, both teams could get to the championship and give me one title. The Sixers could miss the playoffs, fire Doc Rivers, and I'm good.
Yeah, you should be. It seems good to me. Well, you're coming off another, I won't say a sweep again. However,
Right,
you
right.
didn't lose.
Didn't
2-0-1
lose.
this last week. So another
2-0
great
and
week, man.
1.
I'll
2-0
take
and
2-0
1.
1 every week.
Can't complain about it. I was hoping to get that 3-0. The Patriots and Jets got to push. For anybody that got the non-alt spread, because that was my plus money pick, I think, right? At like plus
Yeah, I
one
think so.
something.
Yep.
The actual spread was like what 40 to 40 and a half. If you bet that, you got it. Some late action in that game, but can't win them all. But 2-0 and 1 I'll take. We'll try to get some more here. Just keep this Philly magic running, right?
Seems like a good idea to me. Well, let's do it, man. What do you want to go with first this week?
Let's go with, and I've swapped out a couple because one, I didn't want to take a Thursday night game because that's against the rules. I'll talk about that at some point. But the first pick that I liked, and it's not a Thursday night game, is Bears Dolphins over 44 and a half. Got it last night, FanDuel. I think this was even lower on Monday morning. So shop it around. If it's getting pushed up, that's fine because I think this is good all the way up to the high 40s. So the Bears and the Dolphins, I think, are just two over teams, man. And the Bears defense, does not impress me. I don't think it impresses anybody, right? Like you have a defense that has lost Quinn to the Eagles here in Philly, got a defense that they traded Smith to Baltimore. So not having Roquan's not a great thing either. And it almost seemed like against the Cowboys that they were like, okay, not that they went on strike, but they were just like, all right, yeah, if you're trading all these guys away, we'll let the offense do its thing and maybe they can hang 30 to 35 and they hung 29, but they gave up almost a 50 spot to Dallas. So I think there's just kind of something there. It's like, okay, let's just play this trade deadline out. We're not going to really give total effort. Then you're going down to Miami, right? That's going to be tough to play all four quarters. Miami, I can't say that they're fully clicking again, but Tua came back, looked a little okay in his first week. Second week, I know that they're playing the Lions on that fast track, but they put up a bunch of points, came back to win. I think that the Dolphins can easily get to 30. And if you give me like a 31-20 final, you're getting way over the 44 and a half. And just for people that like stats, both teams are bottom 8 in defensive EPA per play. Not really, teams that are grading out well defensively. The Dolphins did trade for Chubb, but even with that, I don't think it's going to be worth that much to the spread this week. So over 44 and a half to kick things off.
Yeah, and I mean, we'll see how much Chubb plays, and he hasn't. It's not like he's been incredibly dominant this year, though. I was reading some people's reaction to him leaving. It seems like he is a really good teammate, and people, like him as a player. So I think it's a good pickup for the Dolphins. But I'm with you that it's probably not some massive influencer for this week's line.
Yeah, probably a good chemistry play. Like if this team's in the playoffs, good for the team. I think that the Dolphins are going to be in the mix of like potentially top 4 teams in the AFC. They just have to continue to slowly build. And I think if they get this, they're 6-3 now, and they're building, and they weathered the storm without Tua. I know that they lost 3 in a row, but now they're starting to build again. And I think that they're going to put up enough points to get this one home.
Yeah. I like it for sure. I mean, Chicago, I agree. They don't have much left on defense. And Miami's offense Miami's offense is weird too, because it feels like they sputter sometimes and then they still put up, 24 points. You kind of feel like if they ever just ran on all cylinders for a whole game, they'd be at 34 to 37.
50, kind of like the Cowboys did. Like if they put it together, right? Like it's totally possible.
Yeah.
And that's kind of why I keep on going back to the Dolphins. They screwed me the one time, but Teddy Two Gloves got hurt in the game early. Last week, they barely got it home, which was, I think I had them at -3.5. They got to 4, but comeback kids, right? So if they come back, great. Just get me over 44.5, damn it.
Let's do it. It did. I will say, so on Wednesday morning, it's gone to 45.5, but like you said, I still think it's good. And I'll give you the 44.5 because you took it last night, and we have people making picks on Tuesdays, right? You're like, you and I are last doing this. So what's your confidence on that one?
Let's do 3 points on that one. That's probably the pick that I like the most this week.
Sweet. What's the pick you like the second most?
Second most. So this was a swap out pick. And full disclosure, at first I had Eagles in the first half. That keeps hitting.
But in the interest of changing up flavors a little bit, I think that, a couple of us might have that pick. Plus, I think that we're not supposed to pick the Thursday night game. I switched it out to a pick that I like, not equally as much, but just like a little bit below. What the hell is that ringing sound in the background? I have no idea what's going outside my house. If you hear that, I totally apologize.
Can't hear it. Can't hear it.
Good. But it's Chargers team total over 26.5. I got it this morning actually at minus 115 at PointsBet. A lot of books right now on Wednesday don't have team totals out. Bovada does, and was listed at minus 130. So a lot less juice at PointsBet. PointsBet, for people that have it, a lot of times have the best lines. So
Yep.
The key for me in this one is that it's under 27 and 28, playing the Falcons, who Falcons, banged up in the secondary, maybe not a good secondary. They're giving up points at will to Carolina. Probably should have lost that game, as DJ Moore had that awesome catch, but then screwed his team by taking his helmet off, and then they lost the game, right? Can't be doing that.
Yeah.
But it led to more points. So last 2 weeks, they've given up 34 and 35. The Falcons also are that term that I like to use, frisky. And I put like the Falcons, the Seahawks, and the Bears in that category, that they'll hang around in the games. They'll figure out a way to score. They can run it a little bit. They can get tricky a bit. I don't hate what Mariota's doing. I think that they get us into like the 20s. And the Chargers going up against a defense that's given up quite a bit of points right now in a dome, coming off a bye, which I don't know if that helps the Chargers or not, because they're kind of like the great unknown team. But I think that they're going to get to, 27, 28 relatively easily. And this is a game that the Chargers, I don't know how much this factors in, but if you win this game, you're 5-3, you're not out of that race in that division. And you have another head-to-head with KC. They did lose. So this is a spot to come out and say, okay, let's get rested. Let's come out. Let's score points. So team total over 26.5.
Yeah, both of these, it'll be interesting to see what happens for the Falcons, but really neither one of these defenses has been stellar this year. So, and certainly the Falcons haven't. And played a long game against the Panthers while the Chargers were on a bye. So
very good call.
Hate that either, right?
Long game game that probably shouldn't have gone to overtime, but did go to overtime. It just,
that was crazy.
Yeah.
It was crazy. How confident are you feeling on that one?
Let's do a 2 on that one. It's borderline 3. I can't do 2.5, but let's do 2 on that one. The only reason that it's not a 3 is because the Chargers have upset us many times already this season. They seem inconsistent, and they did just lose right before the bye in a spot that they were favored, I think, by almost double digits, right? So
bad.
Yeah, let's just do 2 on that one.
Yeah, sounds good. And we will give I feel like the longer the season is going on, the more I'm letting the rules slide, other than making people do 1+ money picks. So I know Yanni has some for Thursday night, and we'll say that you give your stamp of approval to that first half bet as well, right?
I totally give my stamp of approval. That was going to be a pick. I think that the Eagles just sling it around. I know it's a short week, and I generally have a rule: 1, not to take London games, even though I've broken that once this season and got screwed on the Packers. But 2, avoid betting on road teams on Thursday Night Football unless they're playing a first-year head coach. The Texans are so bad, though, that I think the Texans are the worst team in the league, and the Eagles are top 3. You could argue top 1, but they're probably 3. That I think this is a blowout, and the Eagles are putting up so many points in the second quarter. It's going to continue to happen, and just take that first half.
Yep. Agreed. I probably will not be using that either, but I give my stamp of approval and have bet that also. So I'm in on that too.
Totally. It's so crazy that the Eagles have outscored the second highest team in the second quarter by 40 points. Like, they've scored 40 points more than the next. Like, it's just something about that.
That's wild.
And then they don't need to really score in the second half that much, because they're just kind of floating up by 20, 25 points. So domination.
Yep. Yeah. Another way to play that angle moving forward could even be to see if a team keeps it close in the first quarter, just bet for the second quarter, since that's where they've been most dominant.
Had this been one of my 3 picks, and I feel like that we're talking about it enough that it is, but that if it was a slow start, just take them in the second quarter, because what's going to happen, right? So
Love it. All right, plus money left.
Plus money. This one was tough. tinkering around with a few things. I was going to give out Seahawks, but look, can't come on the show and give a line. The Seahawks are like plus 115 against the Cardinals now. That opened, it said some books open at plus 150. If that's the case, congrats to you and yours for getting plus 150. Because
for
I think it
sure.
was what, a 3.5 point spread. I can't give that out. I like the Seahawks. I think that this spread should be a pick, but at plus 115, if you want to take it, great. What it's going to be, though, is Saints on Monday Night Football at plus 135. I got it at DraftKings. That was the best line available. There were a lot of plus 125s out there. So I said this game should probably be Ravens favored by a little bit, by like one or so. But I think that similar to the Chargers, that they're coming off rested. Hopefully they get Lattimore back. Hopefully they can get Thomas back. I don't know what's going on there. But this is a spot here where you have Tampa that's slumping. If you can get this game on Monday Night Football, the crowd's into it, you're at home here, plus 135. This is your spot to climb back in. If you lose this one and go to 3-6, you've lost the locker room. You've lost the fans. You've pretty much lost everything because this is the spot to get this. The Ravens, I do regard as a top 10 team, but like we've seen over and over again, they make things close. It's never easy. And if you put the Saints at home, and the Saints are moving the ball pretty damn well, I assume they'll go with the red rifle again, right?
Yep.
If you put them at home, it's like, okay, this is a decent spot. Their D, I expected to be a top 10 defense. If you look at their rankings, it's not top 10, but I think that their D has played better than what the final score has looked like. So if they can get Lattimore back, which will be huge, clamp down the Ravens, who don't have a lot of weapons. I guess they'll use Deshaun Jackson, who's probably like 48 years old at this point at some point. But just keep it close. If you keep it close, plus 135 is not the worst value play in terms of a home dog on Monday Night Football in a must-win spot. So Saints plus 135.
Man, I love it. I mean, as far as making a plus money pick, as a home dog, New Orleans is a team, I admit, like I was all in at the beginning of the season. And then I kind of jumped out, if I'm honest. But for the last week or so, I'm coming back around to the potential of what this team could be because their offense is firing. They're getting healthier. If that defense can be what you said, anywhere close to top 10, this is going to be a formidable team again. And I think the market is undervaluing them now. All the stuff you said about the Ravens is true. So I actually early put New Orleans in a teaser. I know teasers have sucked this year, but when they were at +3, I got them up to +10 with a 7-point teaser, which I loved. But I honestly have been considering whether I want to make any other bets on this game because I'm with you. That is the side that I like in this game. So for
sure. The tease is a great spot. It's at 2.5 most books now. There's some threes out there, so still teasable. It might depend on how Sunday goes. Then if Sunday goes well, you kind of fire on the Saints and sprinkle it on the money line, right?
Yeah, exactly. I like it. What do you want to do for confidence on that one?
2 on that one. 2 on that one. So 2 2s and a 3. Came close to 2 3s, but the Chargers have just been that team that Jekyll and Hyde, right? So
the Eagles first half is your other 3.
Right. So 2 3s and 2 2s. So 4 picks. If I go 2 and 1, swap out the 1 with the Eagles if they win, right?
Yeah, here's what I was gonna say. If it wins, then you went like 3 and 1 or 4 and 0 or whatever. If they lose, you went 2 and 1. Like
that was not a pick. Yep, it's
right.
Yanni's pick. It's not my pick.
Dude, this sounds like we're understanding how to make picks on gambling Twitter, man. So this is how you do it right
Twitter
here.
handicapping works, right?
Yep, exactly.
This is how it works. I figured
I lost. I was just joking. That wasn't real.
Yep. It was just a lean, right?
It was exactly. It was a lean. That's right.
Be like, okay, well, do you like it or do you not? God damn it!
Enough to lean. That's
just enough to lean.
Yeah,
just enough.
All right, man. Well, hey, good stuff, and we'll hope to come back with another sweep next week.
Hell yeah, man! If it's not a sweep, give me 2 and 1 in a Phillies parade here in Philly, and I'll be happy.
You should be. All right, man. Have a good day.
Take it easy. Appreciate it.
All right. We got 2 people left to make picks. Unfortunately, was not able to work it out for Kevin to jump on and talk about his picks again, hoping by next week to be able to get him back and talk through what he's seeing and what he likes. But I'm going to just share his picks with you, and then I'll get into mine. First up for Kevin, Chargers and Falcons over 49. Confidence level 3 here. I am not using this as one of my picks, but this is one that definitely stuck out to me early in the week, partly because Atlanta's defense is not very good, especially against the pass, and the Chargers can throw the ball around with Justin Herbert. The Chargers defense has not been great and really not very good against the run. Atlanta loves to run. So to me, it feels like the strengths of the offense are going against the weaknesses of the defenses here, which should lead to a lot of points. Not sure if that's what he's seeing or not, but that is a reason why I would like this pick as well. Second one is one we've heard already. That's Miami and Chicago over 44.5. Confidence level 3 for him on that. As I said earlier, if you saw when I was talking to D, this has gone up to 45.5, but he sent me these picks last night and it was 44.5 at that time. So we'll do that. Talking with D, I don't know if we talked about this on the recording or after, but we both like it up to 47. So even at 45.5, I think that that's a pretty good bet and a good spot. The weather's supposed to be good in Chicago this weekend, so that shouldn't have any adverse effect. And it has to be pretty bad before it does anyway. So that's pick number 2. And then the last one is the plus money pick. And this is going to be a confidence level 2 pick for him. It's a 6-point teaser with Cincinnati, Seattle, and New Orleans. So that takes Cincinnati to -1.5 at home against the Panthers, Seattle +8 at the Cardinals, and New Orleans +8.5 at home against the Ravens. That comes out to +140. So, and that's on FanDuel. I'm not sure if teasers come out the same way everywhere, but a 6-point teaser on FanDuel is +140. So if you like those teams, it's a good price. The teasers have been rough this year, but at some point, I feel like that has to come back around a little bit too. All right. Now for my picks. Man, I really wrestled with what to pick this week. I don't want to just repeat picks that other people are making. Let me just say before I give you the 3 picks that I'm going to make officially and obviously documented and everything, I really do like the Eagles first half -7. I bet that. I think it's great. I like that over with Miami and Chicago. And I really liked Yanni's Minnesota team total over 23.5. Those are some bets I really like. Probably as confident or even more confident than the ones I'm going to give you. But I like these as well. I wouldn't give them to you if I didn't. So for me, first up, I'm going to take Minnesota -3.5. I actually did bet this at -3 right when the lines came out. But even at 3.5, I still like it. Well documented. If you listen to me, the concerns I have for this Minnesota team still, their defense has a lot to prove. I think there's the possibility for them to improve, and I liked some of what I saw that last week. That actually plays in for me a little bit here. Even though they gave up a decent amount of points, they were getting good pressure on Kyler Murray, containing him pretty well. Heineke can run a little bit, but he's definitely not the same kind of quarterback as Kyler Murray. And I like Heineke. I think he's a pretty decent quarterback. Nothing against him, but he's not like top level or something. And so I think Minnesota's defense could fare okay here. The weapons that Washington has are decent, not terrible, but not absolutely top level either. On the offensive side, I don't know how much Hawkinson will play this week, but Washington's defense hasn't been good. Yanni talked about this some with his Minnesota team total bet, and obviously talked about this with Phil a little bit too. He took Minnesota -3.5. I actually just jogged my memory and saw that. That was yesterday at this point. And so I think Minnesota's offense theoretically should be able to put up some points here. Kirk Cousins going back to Washington, all of that. I am always hesitant to bet on the Vikings, but I think it should be a good spot for them. So -3.5, -110, I'll take it. Second pick, I'm going to go confidence level 3 on that. This is one of those games where if it wasn't Minnesota, I would take this with confidence level 3 for sure. And so I need to just go with what I'm seeing and still take it at that confidence level. Second pick for me is going to be the Las Vegas Raiders -1.5 at Jacksonville. This is -106 at FanDuel right now. Obviously, after laying the egg in New Orleans last week, yuck. Why would you want to bet them, right? Number 2, are they throwing in the towel? I mean, the effort didn't even look good last week, so that is not good. Number 3, they're on the East Coast again. Well, they were in Atlanta. Maybe that's not East Coast, but it's Eastern time zone. Now Jacksonville, East Coast. So that could be rough with travel. I wasn't able to find it, but I'm assuming they're going to stay out east this week, which that can work out okay for teams, I think, when they just stay and practice there. So the Raiders, to me, just have more talent. I don't like what I've seen from Jacksonville. Etienne could have a good game here, but overall, I think the Raiders are a more talented team. I like some of what they have on defense. They certainly have the offensive skill players. So I think this is a bounce back spot, as they say, for the Raiders. The Raiders aren't a team you love to bet, but they're a talented team. They've been in a lot of games. It hasn't bounced their way this year. Last week was a terrible look, but for all those reasons, I think that it's likely that the market is low on Las Vegas right now, too. I think if some of those bounces had gone the other way and Las Vegas was close to a 500 team, this is probably at least 2.5, if not 3.5. So -1.5, -106, so reduced juice too. I like it. And I'm actually going to take that at a confidence level 3 as well. I think this is a buy low spot, and I like it for the Raiders. The last pick is definitely not going to be confidence level 3. In fact, I'm going to give this the dreaded confidence level 1. So you may upfront want to not play this pick. As I've talked about, those confidence level 1s have not done well. But looking for plus money, I thought about a teaser. I like some of the legs that Kevin shared. So if you want a teaser, I would go look at those. But I didn't love any of the teaser legs enough to pull the trigger on that. So then I'm looking at the dogs or other derivative bets that I could make, alternate spreads. Here's the one that I came back to. I'm going to take the Los Angeles Rams plus 135 at Tampa Bay. Both of these teams are weird. I mean, the biggest negatives to me are, number 1, the Rams have to travel. Number 2, the Rams offensive line is so beat up and just not very good. However, Tampa Bay's defense has not been very good either. In terms of skill positions, I think that the Rams can kind of compete with the Bucs. I mean, Leonard Fournette's supposed to be good, but he really hasn't been. Cam Akers is supposed to be good. He really hasn't been. Obviously, you got Cooper Kupp on one side. You got Evans and Godwin on the other side. Maybe Julio Jones is able to come back and play, but who knows what he can give you. Allen Robinson has gotten going a little bit. Higbee can get going a little bit. I like the Rams defense as much or more as the Bucs at this point. So to me, this just feels sort of, this is where I'm coming from. This feels like a toss-up game to me. I think the Rams need this game even more because of their divisional situation. So if they're going to show up, this is the time to do it. Neither of these teams has showed massive signs of turning things around to me, so I don't feel super confident on either side. But in a coin flip game with a team that should be a little bit more desperate in the Rams, kind of equal advantages and disadvantages to me offensively, defensively, I'm going to take the plus 135 in that place. So Rams plus 135 at the Bucs, but only a confidence level 1 for me on that. So tail at your own risk. That's going to wrap up the best bets for this week. As always, appreciate those likes, subscriptions, comments, any of that stuff that you are willing to leave. We'll take it. Hopefully we get another big week overall and continue to push up those units on the season as we did last week. Have a great week. Best of luck in all your betting, and I will talk to you soon.